guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am Cindy Lumpkin, and let me say thank you guys so much. I am so humbled by the outpouring of encouragement to my last video in which I reacted to Honest Teacher Vibes video about leaving teaching. And I think she just inspired something in so many of us. I know for one that I definitely want to do my part to help to contribute to giving teachers a voice and telling their stories and sharing what we often share among ourselves. I know one of the teachers that responded to that video, she was like, one of the issues is that we're not telling these stories outside of our classrooms or outside of each other. Not only do I want to do that, but I want to encourage those teachers who are still in the classroom and who do not see their way clear to actually leaving. And for those teachers who are leaving or gonna leave, but wholeheartedly still are teachers and who want to teach. You know, for me, I fell in that last category. Although I left teaching, like at the core who I am is a teacher, and I didn't want to go into corporate. I ended up doing the work, and I found myself with a small little school, and I have been happy ever since. I know a lot of you asked about that, so I'm gonna attach a video up here where I kind of did a series of videos explaining how I did that basically. If you still have more questions, please feel free to join our Facebook group. It's called Teachers Interested in Starting a School. I will put the link down below in the description box. So to hold true to what Honest Teacher Vibes inspired in me, I too wanted to also share a story. One of the first stories that I am going to share is one that so many of us can connect to, right? But I think it also highlights the importance of everybody, student, parent, and teacher, being a vital part in helping our students to succeed. So I am just going to read it straight through. Not gonna include any identifying information or anything. You know what's crazy? I think parents are still grappling with the fact that we cannot teach their children against their will. Learning is a process that cannot work if the learner refuses to engage. This is true, but I'm gonna hold my thoughts until later. Why am I saying this? Because I just had a parent meeting where I told the parent that their child received a 0 out of 5 on their reading quiz. I told her that they were assigned to read it on Friday. Then on Monday, I played the audiobook right before I administered the quiz. I made them go to the page of the story so they could read along. I asked 5 basic comprehension questions, no deep analysis involved. I told her that he thought it was funny that he failed right after we listened to the story. She said maybe he didn't understand the story. No, ma'am, that was not the case. Not only is he a 10th grader and this book is maybe on the 6th grade reading level, he has no problem with basic comprehension. He just did not care to do it. She proceeded to blame me for his low performance, although he was failing 2 other classes as well. So I am one that always believes there's always 2 sides to every story, right? But because this is a teacher to a teacher, I am going to assume that this is an expert teacher, right? And when she mentioned like reading levels and all of that stuff, I think that was her way of saying, like, I know this student, I know what he's capable of. I did not assign him something that he was not capable of, right? In addition, there were some other things that let me know that this seems or appears to be a student who is just not engaged, like she said, who is hell-bent on not doing his assignment for whatever reason, right? And in addition, it sounds like this is not a one assignment issue. It sounds like this is probably his performance, one, because he's failing her class, but not only is he failing her class, he's also failing 2 other courses. So with that being said, this is a prime example why teachers are so exhausted and why so many of them are leaving the classroom. Like, there's nothing worse than being a teacher who gets up excited to impact young minds only to have young minds completely disengaged, right? Who completely decides that for whatever reason, they're just not going to do what you ask them to do. And it's really sad because it goes back to the point that I made earlier about what it really takes for a learner to be successful. And whenever I interview a prospective parent, I always want to be upfront and honest with what my philosophy and what my beliefs are. And I believe for optimal student success, it requires the student, it requires a good, hardworking teacher, and it also requires a good, hardworking parent who's doing their part, whatever, is needed for their particular child's education. But I also believe that it can still happen with only two of the three, right? But it never can happen without the student. So it can be a good teacher and a student, and maybe the parent is not as engaged or not doing what they're supposed to do. As long as that student is engaged and doing what they're supposed to do, and that teacher is standing in the gap, then you will still see student success. I've even seen it where you may not have the best teacher. Like, we have to be honest, not all of us are the greatest, right? But even with not the greatest teacher, if you still have a good parent who's doing what they're supposed to do, you are still going to see student success, right? And so there is no learning without the student. So when you get a student like this, it's almost like, what in the world do you do? And I'm sure that she's not giving up on them, that I'm sure she's trying to engage. And like, did you hear all of the scaffolding that she did? Like, she assigned a reading, then she allowed him to listen to the audio, then she turned to the page he was supposed to do. So it sounds like this teacher has done her part, and you just have a student who, for whatever reason, is not going to perform. And as a teacher, I remember those students. Although I was a special education teacher, I was an inclusion teacher. So I saw plenty of gen ed students or students without disabilities who fit this framework. And when you are in a class of 30 and 35 students, like the last thing you want to do is involve this type of student in a power struggle, because you don't really want his attitude to really filter over into the rest of the classroom, right? Now, I'm also one not to blame parents, but this particular parent is what I call a blameologist. And what is a blameologist? A blameologist is a person who consistently blames others for their shortcomings. And there's a part of me who still empathizes, right? This is a 10th grader. So this is someone who's closer to adulthood than he or she is to like bona fide childhood, right? So I can imagine this student being just a student who is digging his foot in the sand, who's saying that he's going to do whatever he's going to do, right? And because she is there, she is at a parent-teacher conference, I believe she does care. And, sometimes it can be, though, that we caring in the wrong way. Sometimes because we love our sweet little Johnny so much, we're in denial about what little Johnny is doing or not doing, and we're not holding little Johnny accountable. And when we don't hold our kids accountable, it really creates a much bigger issue. And the unfortunate thing is, if he's not being held accountable now, there's going to come a day where he's going to be held accountable, and he's going to feel the results of those consequences. And so at this point, the parent needs to really wake up and to see from the teacher's lenses what she's dealing with. Think about it. We don't go to a doctor, get the instructions from the doctor, and then decide to come home and not do them, and then go back to the doctor and be mad with the doctor. Like, we don't do that, right? So it's the same way. Here's a child who's going to get his education. He's not doing what is instructed. We can't blame the physician, who is the teacher at this point, who's given the instruction, and you just choose not to do them. Like, what came to mind was my daughter. She actually has braces. And when she went to the orthodontist, he gave her all the do's and the don'ts, right? And now I believe she was chewing gum or doing some gummies, all of which is a big no-no. And she broke some wires or something came loose. Well, when I took her back to the doctor, I didn't say, hey, I'm blaming you because of, her behavior or lack thereof, or what she did or did not do. No, He was expecting more money to do what she failed to do. And it was my responsibility to hold her accountable, because at the end of the day, it was impacting my wallet, right? And so for parents who don't hold their children accountable, at the end of the day, it's going to either impact your wallet or they're behind. And in either case, one does not want that. I will also add that if districts don't stop beating teachers up for things out of their control, because this is out of this teacher's control, right? Now, I don't know what this student's test taking is like, but if he's not engaged in instruction, then I can't necessarily expect for him to pass of the testing, right? But no one comes back and say, well, this student didn't pass because of XYZ. They just want to hold teachers accountable for a student's lack of performance on these standardized tests, right? And here's the sad part. I feel, or I see on the horizons where the teachers that are replacing the outgoing teachers, they are going to start matching these children's energy. You give none, I give none. And I think that's not to even really paint anybody in a bad light, because at some point, once again, to preserve who you are, there is only so much you can do with this student. You know what I'm saying? Like, you cannot continue to bang your head up against the wall. You cannot continue to engage a student like this for 10 and 15 minutes a day. Now, you don't give up, but at the same time, I can't sit there and handhold you. Like, what is that old saying? You can guide a horse to water, but you cannot make him drink. So for the teachers who are coming in, especially like some of the younger ones, it's like, hey, I took you here, you ain't drank, peace. I think a lot of teachers who are choosing to leave are doing so because they don't want to be like me. Like, I didn't want to stay and be a part of the problem, because I felt like as long as I stayed in the environment and as long as I collected a check, then I was becoming a problem. And to be real honest with you, I felt like I was eating steak and potatoes off of the backs of poor children, right? And I hate that feeling. And that's not that, I'm not saying that against teachers who feel like you have to stay, because I mean, at the end of the day, you got to take care of yourself, right? And you can only leave if you see a way clear for you to still be able to do that. I have a significant other who had my back and who supports me, so I was able to do that. Once again, I am very sympathetic that not everyone can do it. And I think that is like why so many of the ones who can do it, who like honest teacher vibes, like we speak out and we just don't leave everybody else hanging. And to be honest, there will be an reckoning. And so for all of those who left, and eventually when things get better, because, you know, I'm optimistic, I believe that eventually it will get better as well, then maybe they will see some of us come back. But like I said, I want to encourage those who are still there, who are still waking up every day, despite what things look like, leaving and going. I also want to encourage the ones who get to a point where they just can't do it anymore, but they still want to be teachers. And so I say, look, create your own table. Look, pull up your own seats. I believe wholeheartedly. Like I said, am I getting rich? No. But I don't think anybody enters the teacher profession feeling like that's going to happen anyway. But like I said, it checks off so many boxes for me. And I am happy. I am balanced. I'm able to be the wife, the mom, as well as still impacting young minds. Well, I know a lot of you this past week were on spring break. I actually was. My family and I happened to have gone to California, and let me just say that was a whole vibe. Like, if any of you watch my channel and you're teachers out in California, I absolutely love the state. I definitely don't think I could afford to live there, but we went to San Diego. The San Diego Zoo was awesome. Really, really, really enjoyed it. OMG, I forget the beach name, but we went to the beach. We also went whale watching, and it was such an amazing time. I was able to just relax and just spend time and be present with my family. So I hope you all were able to do the same thing, whether you were traveling or you decided to stay at home. I hope you were able to woosah, relax, and just capture some moments for yourselves. Before I go, I want to invite you guys to share with me what you think about this story. In addition, where did you go on spring break, or what did you spend your time doing on spring break? And till the next time, thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. Have a good one.